Tales from the Podcast is brought to you by the following generous sponsorships.
The Happy Hour News Team. Check them out at www.happyhournewsteam.com.
TalesFromThePodcast.com, where you can pick up your copy of Tales of Shock and Terror #1. The Skewered Universe Podcast. And viewers like you.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Podcast. I'm JB. I'm here with Jeff.
What's up? How's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm here.
Yeah, long weekend.
Long few days, but I'm here. I'm ready to do this. Should be fun.
I understand. Well, hopefully everybody had a good holiday. Understand if you're not able to tune in live today. I mean, it's still holiday weekend, but you can always go back and check us out on the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, blah, 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 bullshit, or go fuck yourself. So we got a pretty fun episode. At least I think it's a fun episode, kind of getting back to the roots of what started this podcast. And that's talking about Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you on for this, especially considering that a lot of this stuff had to have been. I mean, you had a lot of first time watches with me.
Yeah. They were all first time watches with you, and then these ones that I watched for this were also first time watches. So I know this is supposed to be like a top 5 of all time. For me, it's more of like, what would I recommend people check out if they're just getting into it? Since I'm not as well versed, as you can tell by my caption there. I'm the least versed in Tales from the Crypt.
Right. Well, that's understandable. I think our guest might be having a couple of issues. He'll be.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I just realized he wasn't down there anymore.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back into that. I mean, it's cool. We do got some fun stuff going on though. In honor of this being a Tales from the Crypt episode, we will be opening up this pack of Tales from the Crypt trading cards. Ooh, I know.
I'm excited because I honestly didn't even know those were a thing.
Right. I would like to say that I hope I get one I don't have, but I already have the full set. So
unless there's a rare one that you didn't know about, you're probably going to have all of these.
I have all of the chrome ones and holographics that they
there
came
you
out
go.
with. But anyways, our guest is back. Let's go ahead and introduce Neal from Top 10.
What's up, guys? For some reason, when you start the show, my audio doesn't pick up for some reason. I have to close out and go back in, so I apologize.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Actually,
No,
what's going
on?
on? I'm excited for this episode.
Oh, me too, man.
Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, well, you know what? I guess we should go ahead and give the audience an idea of what to expect with this. So we are going to make a collective top 10 out of this as well, grading pretty much, by votes. Votes being, who voted for what, how many times. So technically we have a top 5 each, but we will be turning that into a top 10. We will go around, talk about, why we picked an episode and start at 5 and go down to 1. And maybe we should have it where, what? Yeah, that's what we should do. All right. And I kind of just doing this on the fly. I should have talked about this beforehand, but like we should vote by, where we put these too. So, like, since we're starting at 5, we'll do like an opposite thing. So, number 5 is worth 1 point. Number 4 is worth, 2, and so on. So, our number 1 picks are all worth 5 points, and we'll be able to make our top 10 out of that, because I think it would give it a better idea than, because let's be honest, if like all of our number 5s got picked and they're all number 5s, that shouldn't be our number 1. So, which I don't know if anybody else has a better idea as we do
It's
it.
probably going to be diverse, anyways. I mean, we might have some that are we all picked, but chances are they're probably going to be diverse.
Right. Well, we're about to find out, because let's go ahead and start with our number 5s. And Neal, being the guest, I'm going to have you lead off all of these. So why don't you tell us your number 5?
Pressure's on. All right.
Ooh.
My number 5 is from season 1, and it's called Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, directed by Richard Donner. And the reason, it's not the only reason why it's on my list, but for some reason, when I was a kid, when that show aired in '89, they always played that episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's how I became a fan of like Joe Pantoliano, because he was fantastic in it. Post Goonies, of course. But
Joey Pants.
Yeah, which I've met, and I talked to him about the episode, and he absolutely loved the episode. Nice. I just think it's a brilliant concept. I mean, it's an interesting take on that old expression, cat has 9 lives. Mm-hmm. And I think that Donner brilliantly took that expression and created a terrifying Tales from the Crypt episode from it. And the ending is just fantastic. That twist ending. He should have kept better how many lives he had left, because it bit him in the ass. But it's a fun episode.
It definitely is. I fully understand why you thought that, then pick that, why it's on your list. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, that's for sure. And I believe that was on one of the first ever VHS releases as well. So
yeah, it happened to always be on. I every time it was on, I'd watch it. For some reason, they always played that episode at night.
It's hard not to watch them, especially. I mean, back then we didn't have streaming. I mean, you were lucky if you had a decent VHS player and the videos to begin with. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. Jeff, what about you, man?
So my number 5, and it's from one of the later seasons. It's from season 5, so it's not one of the greater ones, but I think the actors' performances in it kind of elevated it for me. It's Well Cooked Hams, starring Martin Sheen and Billy Zane. That is a terrible picture I put up there. Wow, I did not realize the quality was so bad. And I know it's not like super horrific. It's still got the sort of morality play, like, hey, if you do certain things, you try to screw people over, in the end, you're going to get, karmic retribution. I like the Martin Sheen. I like Martin Sheen getting to play 3 different characters in this. They're essentially all one character, but it's all for a purpose. And Billy Zane plays a very good shit heel. I just had fun with this one.
He's always a really good shit heel.
Yeah, it was fun. It didn't have a lot of the horror elements like more of the other ones did, but it had enough that I was like, okay, this is keeping me entertained. And ultimately, that's what I was looking for in these episodes that I was compiling, was something that was entertaining, and I had fun with this.
Right.
Not the darkest, not the scariest, but entertaining as hell, and solid acting all around from Zane and Sheen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, my number 5 is probably going to be one that does not surprise many people. It is directed by Mr. Zemeckis himself, and the screenplay was done by Fred Decker, which, I mean, you can't come up with too much of a better fucking combo than that. But it is from season 1, episode 2, and All Through the House. I know it's kind of one of those kind of cliche episodes that a lot of people pick, but I mean, just to go through and watch it and see Larry Drake's performance in that episode is one of those that's like it creeps me the fuck out. And it's one of those episodes too where it's like this could really happen. Like this kind of story is very possible. I will say this is not my favorite version of this, though. I thought it was done better in the original Amicus films. I think it was a closer adaptation to the comic book, but I still did enjoy that episode.
It's a classic. It's a pretty freaky episode, man. At the end with the little girl,
Oh yeah,
it's just great.
I think that's what really does it over, especially having little girls at my house. So I mean, yeah, but I like I said, I've always enjoyed it. It's always been a fun one. It's like, some people like to watch, like the Santa Claus or, those kinds of movies for Christmas. I like to start off with And All Through the House and then work into Ernest Saves Christmas. So
I watched Christmas too.
And this is one I had seen years ago. I had seen it. So I kind of purposely avoided it because about every list that I saw online or anywhere that I looked at online, everyone was talking about it. I'm like, of course, this is one that's there. I kind of wanted to like not avoid it, but go a different route because so many people are like, watch this. And I've seen the movie version, and comparing the two, I'm like, well,
Do you agree with me then after seeing the movie version? I think the movie version's better.
Yeah, I do appreciate the movie version more.
Now you're talking
Larry
about
really good.
The Joan Collins one,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure. Okay.
Yes, from the Amicus film.
It's terrifying. There's, like you said, it's like a real life thing. Like anyone could have that happen. It's not a supernatural thing. It's not a monster of the week
Just
type of thing.
cold-blooded murder.
Exactly.
I know, and that's one of those things that's always scarier.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and jump into our number 4s then. Neal, what do you got for
my
us?
number 4 is from season 2, and it's a little ditty called "Cutting Cards."
Oh, another good one.
I mean, first off, anything with Lance Henriksen is just fucking badass. I could swear on here, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Did you miss the part when I told people to like or subscribe or go fuck themselves? So I mean,
but that's something I'd probably say. But Lance Henriksen is just fucking phenomenal in everything he does, and I mean he's just fucking badass in this. It was directed by Walter Hill, who's one of my favorite directors from Warriors fame. From people who don't know who Walter Hill is, it's a simple concept, but it's just sick. It's a tale of pride and ego. These guys are battling out, for pride in their ego, and the lengths they'll go to is just amazing.
I don't mean to interrupt, but like I have to say it, like from Warriors fame, like you don't mention Alien. Like
Well, no, Walter Hill.
Yeah,
Walter Hill directed.
He's one of the big producers for the Alien movies.
Oh, was he? Well, I didn't even know that. Was he really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that goes in hand with Lance Henriksen too. Yeah, they correlate the two. Yeah, ties right in there. But I wasn't aware of that. But when you think of Walter Hill, you think of the Warriors. Most of the he's done other films, but everybody knows him from Warriors. But and I just love his stuff. It's just so dark. But it's just a fucking crazy episode. These guys are just insane.
Yeah, I do agree. One of my favorite things about that episode is just the sheer lack of like a cast. Like there's not a lot going on. Like as far as
is it
Kevin?
Kevin, Tires,
yeah. But no, it's definitely a good one. That's for sure. What about you, Jeff? Where are you sitting with your number 4 on this?
My number 4 is a little episode from season 2. I believe it's episode 16. There was some confusion when I was getting the numbers for these because YouTube said one thing, online said another. So that's what it is. Television Terror.
Interesting.
On my it's further down on my list. Yep.
And I just realized I didn't pull the director, so I'm pulling it up right now. Directed by Charlie Picerni. not sure, but
that
one
episode scared the shit out of me.
It was solid. Now, I've never been a person like I grew up knowing when Morton Downey Jr. had his television show.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to this like tabloid TV type, trash talk show, chain smoking, foul mouth, just what I consider to be the epitome of a garbage person, essentially.
Yeah, so he was one of the pioneers of that.
Yeah, I went into this going, okay, is this going to be similar to how he showed up in Predator 2? And it is, but less so. Like he's more reserved, I feel, in this. But
he
where
still
it
has
went,
that Morton touch, though.
Oh yeah, it's definitely there. It's just not as in your face.
When he's like bossing the crew around and stuff, and it's a great episode. It's on mine. I don't know how you want to go about, Justin. If you want
we're just gonna go through it and we'll rehash on it once it gets to you, because I mean, like, you'll see.
I always appreciate a good like haunted house story. Yeah. And where this one went, it was really fun because the whole time they're like, somebody's in here, call the police,
Yeah.
And then the fact that the network was like, oh, we love this, keep it going, keep doing what you can when all this shit's hitting the fan. All these ghosts are showing up, these elderly ghosts, and then the old woman with a chainsaw out of nowhere just
and the ending was insane.
I was watching it and I told my wife, I go, this is the Alzheimer chainsaw massacre going on right now.
Yeah, which is funny because that's what we're getting into next week.
I had so much fun with this one. I mean, it's my number 4, but still the acting was solid and it had genuine scares. If you're looking for scares, this could get you. I was like, oh, okay, that's a little startling. I wasn't expecting that.
Right. No, I mean, I get it. I mean, Morton Downey Jr. is fucking awesome.
And I'm with you on that episode for sure.
And to continue on to my number 4, it's television terror. So
yeah,
I mean,
who knew we had him at the same spot?
I mean, I never would have guessed, but I mean, it's funny. I mean, there's really not much else I can say that hasn't been said. I am a sucker for a good haunted house one, and this one is like with Tales from the Crypt. We have a TV show that's based off of multiple series of comic books. Your Vault of Horror, your Haunt of Fear, your Tales from the Crypt, your Crime Suspense. I mean, we're hitting on different kinds of horror at different capacities. This is like my favorite stuff. When you get into like the supernatural or monsters, that's my alley when it comes to Tales from the Crypt.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but think of how influential that episode is. I mean, look at all the movies that came out after that, Paranormal Activity. All those movies have been influenced by that episode. I'm almost positive.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
And another thing I want to hit on, because you were talking about Morton Downey Jr. a little bit too. I feel like we really need to also mention, his performance in Revenge of the Nerds 3, as well as Meet Wally Sparks. So, I mean, he's one of those people, like, when he's on screen, it's just fucking amazing.
I forgot about those. My memory goes to his TV show and Predator 2. Those are the two things that stand out whenever Morton Downey Jr.
show for me, because I watched, Zip It, a cigarette, and
I didn't get a lot of his TV show. I mean, I was born in '88, but man, I did watch a lot of Revenge of the Nerds growing up, and Meet Wally Sparks is always a fun one too. So there's all of our number 4s. I guess we're going to be jumping straight into our number 3s now. So, Neal, what do you got there?
Well, my number 3 comes from the little mid-seasons. There's 7 seasons, so this one was from season 5, and it's called Till Death Do We Part. And it's just a flat-out entertaining and relatable story. I mean, and it has John Stamos playing a gangster in it, which you'll never see ever again.
No.
I mean, and he actually pulls it off, but he's a likable gangster. And, you know, the double crossing in the episode is fantastic. The dream sequences are great. And I think it's something any guy would do. I mean, you know, he obviously liked the vixen and the mob boss lady. He was her playboy. And, you know, she was obviously with him for his looks and he was with her for her money. And it was a morality play. He felt obligated to the lady because she was, you know, taking care of him. But, you know, he wanted the sexy, beautiful girl. And he dreams of what he wanted to do, but didn't have the balls to do it. And I just think it's a really well written episode.
You're not wrong. I will say that was actually, you know, if I would have had a, you know, if we would have went to a top 10, that would have been one of mine in there.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
It's an entertaining.
Oh yeah, it definitely is, and it's you know, like you were saying, it's a very different role for Stamos.
Oh yeah,
and
he was great in it.
Right, it shows that not everything he does sucks.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeff?
It actually showed he had some acting ability.
Yeah,
you know,
he's more than just Uncle Jesse.
I mean, he's Uncle Jesse in one episode of Tales.
Or, you know, playing with the Beach Boys, you know.
That episode is almost like a version of an occurrence over Owl Creek Bridge, especially the plot twist which was also yeah. Which, you know,
great plot twist.
Yeah, definitely.
You know.
Now, Jeff, where are you sitting on your number 3?
Okay, so my number 3, I have been going back and forth between what was going to be in my number 3 spot. And as much as I enjoyed it, I am going to say it is the season 1, episode 3, Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone. Again, Joe Pantoliano was great. It's such a fun episode. It's really twisted by the end because you're like, oh,
yep.
He lost track of those lives. Yep. When that realization hit him, he goes, that poor dead cat. And he goes, wait a minute. That cat was dead.
By then, it's great. He's in the coffin.
The panic sets in. He's in that coffin for that last. I was like,
it's terrifying.
Jeez. And I got to say, Robert Wool is actually really fun in this episode, too.
Yeah.
But the other thing I like about it is the entire episode is this sort of surrealistic, almost like a nightmare. Like nothing feels really real. I know it's in a freak show at a carnival.
Yeah, it's like eerie.
But it's so off. Everything is weird about it.
Very dreadful.
Yeah.
Like, you know, something bad is going to happen, but you don't know what. It's a fantastic episode.
Yeah. Just everything about it, the angles, the way it's shot, the lenses, it's so, everything is just off enough where you're like, this is like a waking nightmare. But it's just, it's so good. And Joe Pantoliano just nailed that character beautifully.
Yes. David says, Dig That Cat He's Real Gone is such a great backstory episode because it begins with being buried in the coffin. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Neal, obviously, David has been a very long time listener of the show and not to speak for him, but I'm going to say he's a pretty avid Tales from the Crypt fan himself.
Awesome.
So I guess continuing it, my number 3 is one that might not be on anybody else's list. It's one that is creepy, kind of like my number 5 pick. It's something I feel could have been very possible to happen, but it's probably what I'm going to say is one of the most fun episodes for me to watch, and that is Top Billing. I completely fucking love that episode. Directed by Todd Holland. I mean, we got fucking John Lovitz, John Aston, Louise Fletcher's in it. I mean, it's just such an amazing fucking episode. You know, we got like the whole insane asylum going fucking wrong and trying to put on the fucking play, and you got people fighting for roles without realizing that, you know, by the end of it, I mean, well, let's be honest, this episode has probably one of the most interesting plot twists. And I don't know if Jeff had a chance to check that episode out, but I'm sure Neal has remembered what the plot twist is there with the skull.
I have not, but I read a brief description of what it was, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
not over the top, ridiculous
agree
John
with
Lovitz." Okay,
Yeah.
but I am a John Lovitz fan. I do love it, and like I said, it's just an all time fun episode. It's one of those it has its gory moments, but it's hard to just not have fun while watching it either. And the opening sequence was such a great homage to the classic TV series Masterpiece Theater. Yes, it is. And let's go ahead and continue on. So that's our number 3s. Now we are going into our number 2s.
Well, we don't want to beat a dead horse, but my number 2 is Television Terror. It's number 2. And the reason is just scary as fuck. It's frightening. And it's funny at the same time. And it influenced so much TV after that. I mean, that particular episode, just with the supernatural. And Morton Downey Jr., huge fan of his. He's just a loudmouth, and like Jeff said, he's tame in it, but he's has that Morton Downey, aesthetic to him that makes him him, and acting ability pulls it off. And from the moment they enter the house and they want the ratings and everything, and they're pushing for the ratings, it says a lot about television, how television works.
it's the if it bleeds, it leads mentality.
Keep going, right?
Yeah,
no
and
what.
the fact they saw all this stuff going on, and even that last sequence where we see how he dies going out that
the
window,
ending is insane. He's hanging
and they
up
just
the wall.
keep filming. It's just like
Brilliant episode, yeah.
Like, it's scary and really
30
fucked up
years
how
later,
they were treating
it's
it.
still very true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great number 2, though. I mean, that might be the only
It's
one that's on all of our
And
lists.
you know what? It's the episode that just sticks out in my head out of all these years, because I don't watch these every day. Especially the earlier ones I kind of revisit, but the later seasons 6 and 7, they just don't remember them. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that particular episode, just that and my number 1 just stick out in my head, and that's probably why they're number 1 and number 2. I just remember them,
And David's mentioning how he feels like this episode was an inspiration to like the Blair Witch Project, and I mean,
oh yeah, sure, I can see that. Yeah,
we kind of touched on how this episode is very influential when it comes to a lot of films that came out afterwards. If they want to admit it or not, this is something that's had to have stuck in their heads at some point.
Because that was season 2, so it came out in 1990.
Yeah,
so yeah, way before that boom of Host and Paranormal and all those.
And Tales from the Crypt was so big and so influential in the zeitgeist that even if you saw it in passing, things would stick with you that you would see.
Well, I mean, nothing was on at that. You got to 1989. We didn't have the American Horror Stories and all these shows. Mm-hmm. All these shows are influenced by Tales from the Crypt. You had
even prior shows were influenced by Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Dark Side is pre, but Hitchhiker and Amazing Stories, even Spielberg's one was kind of very influenced by Tales from the Crypt. Absolutely. So a lot of these big directors got into the game because of Tales from the Crypt. As far as writing.
Like, all right, let's just first off be 100% honest. Like, maybe not under the Tales from the Crypt name, but I would argue, and I mean, I would put up a fucking argument that things going back to Twilight Zone are still influenced by the EC comics. I mean,
for sure.
Like that's what I mean. Realistically, that's what I would say kicked off modern horror in the biggest, way was those EC comic books in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, like Twilight Zone and EC Comics really ushered that twisted, two-fisted type twisted ending morality tales to the forefront. of television,
Right.
especially Tales from the Crypt and also
Right.
Twilight
Well,
Zone.
12 was
Then
the
you had
Crypt was what?
you'd have
Almost
the
10 years prior.
yeah,
So,
in the
you know,
50s. So I mean, and then you had like the Hitchhiker, which carried
right.
that mold, which was a fantastic series too. I think it ran
Right.
like 6.
So Jeff might know him. So Jeff, have you heard of the band The Deadites?
Yes, I have.
So their synth player, who goes by the name Tiny White, actually did the theme song for this show. If you've ever listened to it, and he asked me what I wanted it to be like, and I was like, I want it to be like The Hitchhiker meets Tales from the Crypt, and that's how
Yeah.
that whole theme song came to be. So
The
I mean,
Hitchhiker series was great. That
yeah.
and he's walking along the side of the road. I love that series.
Oh, it's so good.
I have 3 seasons on DVD. I bought at Target years ago.
Jeez, I haven't even looked for it. I need to.
It's so funny because I
Great
remember the name, but I
series.
never watched the series.
Oh,
I loved it. Just I loved
the theme
Chris
song always stuck with
more,
me. You know,
but it's close. Hitchhiker was a
Yeah.
great, really twisted writing tales in that. Like
I'm gonna have
you
to
know,
find
some-
it.
dude, it's
Yeah.
worth it. So, Jeff, we're on to your number 2.
So my number 2 is from season 4. And I had a lot of fun watching this one. It's directed by Gilbert Adler. It's What's Cooking with Christopher Reeve, Judd Nelson,
Oh yeah, that is a good one.
and Bess
I do remember
Armstrong.
that one.
I like it because it starts off and you think it's just going to be like this wacky kind of weird horror thing. And
Yeah.
honestly, now I've watched a lot of horror, so typically I can see where the twist is coming in. I didn't see the end twist of this one happening the way it did, and it played out so
Yeah.
well that I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, good episode.
Like the
We
twist
serve-
of the human meat,
He's serving the
I was
human
like
meat.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep.
And then the ending twist where the drifter who comes in and they hire as their busboy as he's passing through, trying to get money out of them, but then they're like, "Oh, well, we knew what was happening all along." So
And he becomes dinner. Yeah.
yeah, and even the cop
episode.
walking in and he's like, "Oh, officer, you got to help me," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, well, you know."
I remember that episode. Yeah.
I was like,
I like that one a lot.
okay, this is really well done. And Christopher Reeve, I don't think gets enough credit for his acting outside of the Superman movies because he's
Yeah,
really
he did at least
good,
get a
like-
really good job walking in this one.
Fuck you.
Eh,
He played such a really good, like down on his luck, but like awkwardly funny guy in this. Like everything was like
but also
he was
sinister,
nervous and anxiety riddled trying to keep everything from his wife, but then
Yeah.
you realize exactly why that was going on. You're like, okay, you're playing two sides of the coin. You're very good. It was a lot of fun. Like, and Meatloaf too was
too.
just,
Yeah.
I mean, a brief cameo from Meatloaf, but still, it was fun
We all love Meatloaf
in many ways.
in many ways. All right, so going on to my number 2. My number 2 is one of them that, because of my complete fascination with special effects, it's hard for me not to pick this one. And it is from season 2. It is a Lower Birth.
Mm.
And it is one of those that's always been kind of creepy to me. I mean, we get the deformed two-faced brother,
The episode.
and the who is
In the
actually
car.
is the real life brother of the director Kevin Yeager, who did the special effects for all of the Crypt Keeper segments of Tales from the Crypt, as well as creature designs for, I mean, let's be honest, every single thing that you've ever loved in your fucking life. I mean, the guy is an amazing
that had
special
probably
effects
the
artist.
most prosthetics out of all the episodes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The baby
And
yeah.
I can't speak for now, but at the time when I did the episode, which was a while back, Yeager's studio was still selling part of the prosthetic that was used for the face as well as the baby Crypt Keeper, which,
Yeah.
it is cool too, getting the you know, the
mummy
backstory. Yeah, you know, we get to figure out that the Crypt Keeper's parents is a two-faced freak and a mummy.
Yeah.
And
Classic episode. I think it's one of the first episodes ever. I have the comic in one of my comics, you know.
I got like 6 copies of that
Yeah,
one.
it's a popular. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I
fun
have
one.
the big one too.
Yeah,
The,
yeah.
you know, the hardcover, the module.
It's a fun one. I mean, the comic's good. It stays true to the comic, and you know, like I said, the special effects in it are just they're fucking top notch for this episode. And you know, I can't help but to think that a lot of that is just for the simple fact that you know we got Kevin Yeager doing it and directing it, and you know, let's also go ahead and throw in there that the screenplay was done by Fred Decker, and it's just great. I absolutely love it. Now, this is the part that I think is going to be probably the most versed from
Controversial.
here.
Mine's
Our number
mine will
ones,
be
our number
controversial
ones.
because it's probably not most people's number one. But
Mine is 100% nobody's number one. Watch me and Neil have the same one.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm thinking that you guys might be like, "That's your number one, really?" But I love the episode. So,
All right, let's hear it.
my number one is from season 5, and it's called House of Horror.
All right.
It, you know, it's not a often mentioned episode. It's directed by Bob Gale, but it's as if. See, I come from teen John Hughes films and slasher films. Those are my favorite things growing up. And House of Horror is as if John Hughes directed a Tales from the Crypt episode. It has frat boys, cheerleaders, all elements of just, you know, like a teen type film that gone into horror completely wrong. It's first of all, you got Kevin Dillon, you got Will Wheaton, and you got Keith Coogan. And those three together is just like pure gold. They just work well off of each other. Especially Kevin Dillon is his neurotic self in the episode. And I just love the concept of it. You know, like I said, it's like if John Hughes directed a Crypt episode, and it has just such a great twist ending that I did not see coming. And most of the time I could catch twist endings, but this one threw me for a loop when I first saw it. I had no idea that was going to happen. And it's just like, you know, they're trying to scare these three guys that are pledging this fraternity, and you know, they're playing tricks on them and everything. And you think like, you know, they're going to get murdered by, you know, whatever there's going to be, but you know, the twist, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I don't want to leave any spoilers that anybody wants to go back and watch these episodes, but the twist ending is just one of the best twist endings I've seen. It just really, really written well.
Right. That is one of them that I love the episode as well, but I thought that the comic book did it significantly better. It's similar but still a little off, and
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if you mentioned it. I don't, but I mean, Courtney Gaines. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
fucking The Burbs, Children of the Corn,
Oh,
Back
yeah.
to the Future,
Yeah,
Hellblazers.
I'm a big fan of
I
his.
mean, the guy is, you know, a genre actor like no other, and nobody ever recognizes him. But I mean, fucking fantastic performance. It is like for being what I would consider a later season episode. I can see why it would hit on your top 5. It
It's
is
a
a really
solid
good
episode.
episode.
And like
It
it
really
just
is.
has elements that I love in like, you know, just like young adult acting, you know, silly and horror mixed together. And it marries those two perfectly. And then like, you know, at the end with the sisters kind of, you're gonna be our slaves, you know, they end up being vampires. It's just like it locks them into the room, and you know, it's just like they're fucked now. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like terrifying to think, oh my God. But the way it's shot too, with like, you know, just like the abandoned house and the stairwell and the noises and just the nuance of it is just so entertaining. And I just always loved that episode.
Yeah, that was definitely
And,
one that
and Keith Coogan is just great in it too. He's just like total Keith, just like this like well-mannered, the voice of reason one, that he always plays, and you got Kevin Dillon being the wisecracking, neurotic guy, and Will Wheaton's just like, kind of, the best friend, and they're all in it together, and you think stuff's bad's going to happen to them, and it ends up, the twist there is it's just just an entertaining episode.
Yeah, it was definitely one that I read about when I was getting ready to go through this. So it didn't make the list of stuff that I watched, but it's definitely on there to watch next because the premise did sound very interesting. So
that's season 5. So for one of the later seasons, it's excellent.
Yeah, I'd argue it's probably the best one from season 5.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, you're number 1.
All right, so my number 1. Now it might be a little weird to have this as a number 1 considering what it is, and JB, you can already tell.
Yeah.
But directed by Walter Hill. It's the very first episode. The Man Who Was Death, starring William Sadler.
Yeah, that was a good one.
The reason I liked this one so much more than the others, and it just edged out What's Cooking, is simply because William Sadler has this presence, no matter what he does, that is intriguing to me. I mean, you look at his character even in Demon Knight as Breaker. I'm like, yeah, I buy you as this guy. I bought him as this guy who was an electrician who moved to the city, got a job at the prison, worked up to executioner.
It's an interesting concept.
And then once the death penalty gets rescinded, he's like, well, that's all I know. So I'm going to make sure these people who are getting off the hook, who are actually guilty, pay for their crimes. And then that twist, because we see in the beginning, there's a guy walk down the hall. He's struggling. He's like, no, I don't want to do this. He gets put in the electric chair. Sadler's character throws a switch. And then at the end, it comes back around. He gets caught for offing these people using electricity because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's those same shots, but now he's the prisoner being dragged down the hall to the chair. And it's this perfect parallel from beginning to end of it's like how it started, how it's going. It's one of those, and I just have fun. That, and then seeing the introduction, and this is going to talk about the wraparound, the introduction of the Crypt Keeper and how the voice wasn't quite there yet. And knowing that the animatronics weren't quite there because they were just repurposed from a Child's Play Chucky doll. But you could see where they wanted to go. You could get the inklings of where the Crypt Keeper was coming from. It's like the introduction of that, and then just this performance from William Sadler was just great. It topped my list. Is it the strongest episode I watched? Probably not, but I think there's a lot more there, and that's why
it's a very dark episode. Yeah,
it is. It's very dark, and I like that. I like that we get this narration from Sadler's character the entire way up until he's caught.
It's just so intense. There's no fluff. There's no like enlightening moment. It's just dark from the beginning to the end. Yeah, good episode.
So I guess we're going to be going on to my favorite episode from season 2. I will say that of all the things I've ever really read and checked out with lists, this one never really gets talked about too much. And it is directed by Jack Shoulder, who did Arachnid, The Omen. What else did he do? Alone in the Dark, Freddy's Revenge, and this is the episode Fitting Punishment. I honestly don't think there is a more fucked up, brutal episode than Fitting Punishment. You get a man who has to take care of his nephew, who...
Oh, the basketball one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good episode. See, like, I don't remember, but then, like, when you start talking about it a little bit, it triggers. Yeah, that's a great episode. That would be in my top 10, probably.
I mean, it's fucking nuts. I mean, the things that he does to his own family.
Yeah,
and
I just remember the basketball.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember the ending. All right, like not to give too much away, but what do you do when a coffin's too short?
Yeah,
he did what you wouldn't
that
do.
was a crazy episode. Yeah,
I mean, it is, yeah, and just the special effects with the embalming, everything. I mean, hats off to fucking Todd Masters. He did an amazing job
how
with
much
that
do you
episode.
love money, man? Wow, yeah, it's a morality play.
Trickopedia. The two most nuts ones to me are the one with Jeff Bridges, where they trick him into thinking he's dead, and the Christopher Reeve one. Yeah, yeah. Jeff thought it was funny how Christopher Reeves could walk. I was like, Jeff, that's harsh.
No, that's not what I
Right.
don't
That
put
was
your
in
words
season
in my
2,
mouth.
huh?
Huh?
Fitting Punishment was in season 2, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
season 2, episode 12. Yes, yes.
Another one I came across, but it just I didn't. So I'll be honest. I watched these over a sequence of time. I had to fit them in. So I was like, okay, it was kind of like a coin toss between ones I was going to watch, and this one just missed out being watched. But I want to check it out because, again, the premise that I heard or read, I should say, sounded
pretty
really
crazy.
intriguing.
Yeah. I have a few honorable mentions. I don't know if you want to do that almost made the list.
Yeah. Let's we'll do like a 2 that almost made it, so we don't overdo it. Because I mean, this list could go on forever otherwise.
Yeah.
And if any honorable mentions are on the list, because we have so many ones with tiebreakers, I will add 1 point to those ones as well. So go ahead, Neal. Why don't you go with your 2 honorable mentions?
One that almost made it is Only Sin Deep.
Yeah,
it almost made it. I love that episode because I've been infatuated with Leah Thompson, and I did get to meet her. I should show you guys the pictures.
Good-looking woman.
She's still a good-looking woman, and
I know. I follow her.
I have 2 pictures with her, and when I met her in person at 90s Con, I told her that you probably get told that, fans of your movies like Red Dawn and Back to the Future, of course, but I loved you in
or Howard the Duck. She was great in Howard the Duck,
right? The cult classic. I loved you in your Tales from the Crypt episode, Only Sin Deep, and she started quoting the episode, and I was like, oh my god,
wow!
But it's just she's just such a motherfucker in it, though. As sweet as she is in real life in person, which really is a testament to her acting ability, because she is an evil woman in that episode. And then when her face gets old, I don't want to give spoilers away, but it's just, she gets hers in the end, which is well deserved. But
that is a good one. I give you that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that one didn't make one of our lists. Honestly.
That was season 1 too, right?
Yeah, it was season 1.
Yeah. It almost did. It almost did it. And my second one is the ventriloquist dummy. Man, come on, Don Rickles. Yeah. What a crazy episode! Oh my god, that's a fun episode. It's a fun episode.
That is another one that I saw young, because there were some of these that I saw that I just never remembered until I actually saw images from it. And that was one that once I saw the image of what the twist is, I was like, oh, I did see this. This creeped me out as a kid. I didn't like it.
It's a creepy episode.
And we do mention Don Rickles in that, but like Bobcat Goldthwait too. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, god damn, that was great.
Both of them.
Yeah, no, those are some good ones. What about you, Jeff? 2 honorable mentions. Oh, hold on, before you get to that. A lot of the rights issues with this are being settled, and I believe a lot of the stuff is actually come down to Silver Holdings. So Joel Silver is basically letting a lot of the rights actually go back to the Gaines family, which, with those kinds of things, is all about timing and shit. Right. But if they're to me, honestly, that's very honorable to let it go and resort back to the Gaines family, because if anybody deserves to have that, it is them. Unfortunately, though, that does not include the likeness for the Crypt Keeper, which if we do ever get anything else,
Right,
we would probably see a different Crypt Keeper.
Because HBO, they designed that kind of keeper, so it's just a lot of legality. Like, you know, I know his daughter did the Gaines realm helm, and they you know, they deserve the
comic.
Money. Yeah, it's I mean, it's his stories. I mean, you know, but like, you know, a lot of these directors directed a lot of these episodes. I mean, I don't know too much about. I mean, I know, you know, Zemeckis Donner's directed a lot of them, and
right. Well, it's because a lot of these guys were a lot of the producers for these episodes. And
so, I mean, you know, I don't know. King was able to do Creepshow. I mean, I know it's not Crypt, but like Romero, they were, you know, it where do you draw the line? You know what I mean?
Well,
like, you can't get any of this.
Romero's a lot easy.
Yeah, I mean,
their family will sell out a lot faster than a lot of others.
It's open domain, yeah. But I mean, like, what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say. Something to do with you cannot get those on DVD. Like a friend of mine's trying to get them on DVD. I bought those when they first came out, the Tales from the Crypt. On you know, the 1 and 2 packages, 3 and 4 together, like you know, separates, double packs. But I've even tried to look for. You can't buy those on DVD anymore. And like the slim, you know what I mean? So
no, you can't. No, you can buy just the one box set now, but not the other.
Yeah.
And Trickopedia, M. Night was saying no Crypt Keeper. I'm gonna be the first one to throw it out there. That his reboot was not happening before that to begin with. And I am so fucking happy that it's not him that's going to be behind it. Because, I mean, let's first off, just to give everybody an idea and people who don't know, the producers, which, I mean, these are the people that are behind the TV show Tales from the Crypt. And I'm going to talk about the big ones that, you know, people, you know, these are the ones that people should know. So you got Richard Donner, Lethal Weapon, Superman. I mean, that's really all I need to say.
Goonies.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on. David Giller, who passed away just a couple of years ago. You know, we're talking Aliens, like all of the Alien movies. I mean, the Money Pit. I mean, big time fucking, you know, big fucking productions. We got Walter Hill, you know, 48 Hours, Aliens. I mean, he's been mentioned before. Then we go into Robert Zemeckis, you know, Back to the Future, Forrest Gump. I mean, let's be honest, Zemeckis probably did more bigger things than almost any of them. You know, like just the House on Haunted Hill. He ended up doing one of my all-time favorite movies that was supposed to be a Tales from the Crypt movie and ended up being shipped off on its own because they thought it would be successful by itself without it, which is The Frighteners. And then another one of the big.
Did he do The Burb? No, The Burb's is Joe Dante.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
They did produce, though. That's the thing. These guys were behind producing it. And then to go on to it, one of the biggest producers, you know, which, I mean, we're talking money people at this point, is Joel Silver. For those who don't know, he produced The Nice Guys, The Matrix. What else did he do?
That Jamie Lee Curtis film where she's a cop. Didn't he do that one too?
Is that Blue Steel?
Let's see.
Something like that. It was a good movie.
I'll go through some of his just because he has done some of the biggest stuff. He was producer for The Warriors, Xanadu, 48 Hours, Brewster's Millions, Jumping Jack Flash, Lethal Weapon, Predator, Action Jackson, Die Hard, Roadhouse, Predator 2, Hudson Hawk, Demolition Man, Richie Rich, let's see what else. All the Tales from the Crypt movies, Conspiracy Theory, Double Tap, House on Haunted Hill, Romeo Must Die, the 2000s Dungeons and Dragons movies, Swordfish, 13 Ghosts, Ghost Ship, all of the Matrix movies, Gothica, House of Wax, The Reef, The Reaping. He produced all of Veronica Mars, The Return to House on Haunted Hill, The Speed Racer, The Orphan, Splice, Sherlock Holmes, Book of Eli, The Losers. I mean,
Very prolific, yeah.
We're talking about, like, no joke, the producers that were behind Tales from the Crypt were hands down the biggest producers that were out at that time. And after talking to people, because I had a lot of people on that were in episodes during the show, and to be honest, the person I probably got the most information from, and this is before I even started doing video for it, was when I had Timothy Stacks on, who, if you guys remember him, he was on Son of the Beach as Notch Johnson, and he played TV's Timothy Stacks on My Name is Earl, but he's a comedy writer. But the way he basically broke it down for me is that big actor, small actor, it didn't fucking matter. When you worked for Tales from the Crypt and did an episode, you got paid scale for the chance to prove yourself to these producers, because that's how you got into the big movies. These guys did it all, and that's why we got so many really, really big name actors and actresses, is because of that. And even when you're talking about somebody like, even Leah Thompson, Don Rickles, all these guys got paid scale, which I mean,
big names were guest acting,
but they wanted the opportunity to even be able to do these things, which is pretty cool.
I remember Andrew McCarthy was in one of the episodes. It's an iconic.
Oh yeah.
Just so many people.
Right. Jeff, now sorry to continue on to your 2 honorable mentions.
Well, I have only one.
Okay.
Because the other one I watched, I guess I'll say there are 2, but one's really not worthy. Werewolf Concerto. It's
a fun one. It's fun.
It's fun, but what took me out of it was the werewolf makeup was really not the best. I didn't care for the look. I didn't care for the look. Everything else was fine. Then that happened.
We have that issue nowadays. Like, ever since American Werewolf in London, nothing holds up.
Is that the one where the blonde lady, she gets locked like in a big mansion, and then the twist is like she's the vampire. She's like the werewolf.
They're at the resort, and it's Beverly D'Angelo, and she's the vampire. Which I was like, okay, I like that twist.
That was a fun one.
It was. Once I saw the transformation, I was like, because they didn't show it fully in the beginning. I'm like, oh, okay, and then they show it. I'm like, it fell flat, because the 2 for me, when it comes to werewolf movies, are obviously American Werewolf in London,
Dog Soldiers.
That's the second one.
Not Wolf Cop.
Well, I love The Howling.
Oh, too. Wolf Cop is awesome, but I'm going to say
Wolf Cop's up there for me. I loved Wolf Cop.
Wolf Cop's fun, but the top 2, because Dog Soldiers blew me away when I saw it.
Howlings were good ones too. I just saw that they actually redid the animatronics for those. Yeah,
but I mean, I also love Silver Bullet. I think it's a great Stephen King adaptation.
That's still one I got to check out. It's on my list. I still got to check it out.
Plus, I was a big Corey Haim fan too. I mean, as cheesy as it is, but it's a great movie.
Right. What about your second one there?
So the other one, it's just because it was so fucking weird. Food for Thought with Ernie Hudson playing a weird psychic. Dude,
I don't remember that.
It's so goddamn weird. He's got psychic powers and he's controlling his wife. And you know what? I don't even remember what season. I didn't write it down. It just stuck with me because it was so weird. Let me see if I can pull up what season it is real quick, because
that'd have been one of the later seasons.
It was just so goddamn weird. I mean, Ernie Hudson playing a psychic clown at a carnival freak show.
Oh, that's one of the later.
And you have Phil Fondacaro. And it's just I
Phil
it
Fondacaro
was
is always
so
fun, though.
goddamn weird. He was great.
Man, I loved him in Troll. I'll admit it.
He's really good in Troll.
Yeah, both of his roles in Troll. But no, that is a good one.
So
And
this is released season 5, episode 4.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like and it didn't really explain itself at the end that apparently his wife also had powers and then controlled a gorilla to kill him. I'm like, I watched the episode twice because I wanted to show it to my wife because I was like, the ending is pretty decent with Ernie Hudson's head in the gorilla's lap. It's eating his brains. I was like, that's kind of cool because it's good effects, but I don't know how we got to that ending because it just kind of happened. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It either it fell apart or maybe I'm just not smart enough to get where they were going, but it was just so weird. I was like, I can't recommend it, but I should give it a shout because Ernie Hudson can play creepy really well. And it's disturbing that a guy I grew up liking as Winston Zedmore can do creepy so well, and it's just disturbing.
So my top honorable mentions is House of Horror and I mean, doing two of them does make it difficult. I will say that because I do have a lot of episodes I really love.
They're popping in my head now.
Like
more.
Like
collection completed.
No. This one for me it's a really, really weird one, but I think it has to do, and Neal's going to be probably the first one to catch on to what I'm going to be picking, but my absolute love over EC Comics, and I would have to be going with Corman's Calamity, which it's just a, I mean, you want to talk about a fun episode. Man, wife issues, illustrator, fucking his drawings come to life.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's such an EC, almost Twilight Zone type of.
Yeah, and it's about a guy working for EC. I mean, it's just it's what I love.
That is a good one.
So to me, it's just a lot of fun. Now we got to go through this list, guys, and make our all-time top 10. So I will say right now, I got our number 1 done, and I'm just going because obviously it's easier to go from the bottom up. But our number 1 episode in our top 10 is Television Terror, which hit all of our lists. So it's kind of hard to argue that one, and the points kind of really go up there. Our number 2 is House of Horror, which another really good episode, and that one got an extra point because of my honorable mention. Now we do have a double draw for number 3, so I'm actually going to we'll let Neal pick because Neal's the only person who does not have either of these movies on his list. So what would you say is the better episode, Neal? And Fitting Punishment or The Man Who Was Death? These are our 3 and 4s.
In my style, my kind of opinion in horror is probably The Man Who Is Death. I really like that story.
Okay.
The morality. I mean, the Fitting Punishment is great, but it's just so like that guy is just. It's hard to.
It's too much.
It's too much evil.
It really is.
When you think about what he did, it's like, man, all right, yeah, it's just that's like, beyond the pale. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So now, I'll go with The Man Who Is Death.
Right.
Okay.
Now we do have a 3-way tie for number 4, which is going to be our 5, 6, and 7, and one of them is on each of our lists. So collectively, we're going to have to vote and come up with it between the 3 of us. So we got Lower Birth, Dig That Cat, and What's Cooking. So, I mean, if I'm voting on those three, I would have to say probably probably Dig That Cat, Lower Birth, and then What's Cooking.
Yeah, I agree. Dig That Cat definitely is number one, the first for me, and then
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So we got Dig That Cat, Lower Birth, and What's Cooking. All right, and we got for our next one, we only have. All right, it looks like the next one on the list is actually going to end up being. We got a two-way tie on that one. So Jeff, you are the choosing person on this one.
Oof.
We got Till Death Do We Part.
Okay.
And Top Billing.
And what is the for refresh my memory, because I haven't seen Till Death Do We. I haven't seen either one, but I know the premise of
it's a
Top
fantastic
Billing
episode. you would like it. Trust. I don't know any, but like, it's just it was almost my number one.
To get all right here, what we'll do is we'll just go through plot synopsises since you haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Till Death. I'm trying to find the plot synopsis.
I can tell you if you want.
I was just gonna read the IMDb plot synopsis, but yeah, go ahead.
Basically, John Stamos plays this playboy, good-looking, lower-end gangster, dressed in like a flashy gray suit, and he's cheating on. Basically, the mob boss is a woman with a lot of power, and it's the lady. I don't know if it's the lady who is the drill sergeant in Private Benjamin. You know who that lady? You know who I'm talking about? That late character actor lady.
Yeah,
I can't think of her name,
Yes,
but that's her, and she's great too. She plays the mob boss, and she was in a bunch of movies. But that's the one, like Private Benjamin. She plays the one that hates Goldie Hawn. That's her. I don't know what.
Yeah, I can see her face. I can't.
She plays
think of
the mob boss, and she's completely overpowering John Stamos, like has total control over him, and she's fucking loaded. So he's basically giving her the, I only have eyes for you, but like I'm loyal, blah blah blah. She's paranoid that he's cheating on her, and he is cheating on her with this blonde, beautiful blonde girl, and she finds out, and she kills. She kills the girl. She digs a grave, and she makes him dig the grave. And but see, I don't want to ruin the spoilers. I don't want like the twist.
Right.
So then it goes.
It is a really good. It is a really good twist.
Yeah, like he takes action and is like stands up, gets some balls, and kills the mob. But everything isn't what it seems.
Right. Okay.
And that's the twist. That's the brilliance of the episode.
Right. And then
but it's done very well.
And then Top Billing is, insane asylum. Some inmates get out. They kill everybody in charge and put on a theatrical play with John Lovitz. And I don't care. I will give the twist away on this one. And they're filling a part. And basically, they're trying to replace the skull. And they're going to kill the person and use their head.
Okay.
So
since you gave the twist ending, part, I might as well at this point. I went straight.
Trust me, I'll forget by the time I get to watch these.
The twist is that he fantasizes about doing this, about killing all the mafia guys, shooting the boss, and running off with the blonde lady, his girlfriend, the blonde, pretty blonde girl. but it's all like a dream sequence. It's all
He's
in his head.
a gigolo in that episode,
Yeah,
isn't he?
and it goes
Yeah.
back to him basically going, "Yes, dear," and she's like, "You're mine forever." And he's got his head in her lap, and they're driving off in a limo, and it's like he really wanted to do what he fantasized about doing, which is throw the mob boss in the grave and run off with the woman he loved.
Vivid imagination. We see everything he wants to do, but it turns out he's still just.
It was just a dream. It was just a fantasy.
Right.
I mean, not to throw it out there, but more or less, he's kind of a cuck, maybe.
I can see that a little bit.
I mean, okay, so.
So you basically got Gigolo Dream Sequence gone crazy and Insane Asylum theatrical play gone crazy.
And my head is going, okay, there's those two premises, and then it's Uncle Jesse versus Jay Sherman the Critic.
But if you watch it, I'm telling you, me telling doesn't give justice. Like, you gotta watch it.
No. I will say, like, going back and really looking at these ones, in my personal opinion, I will say Till Death Do We Part is probably a better episode as a whole. I just personally have a lot of fun watching Top Billing, and I think it's a fun one.
Well, I think for right now, based on premises alone and what the twists are that I can expect, I'm going to give it right now to Till Death Do We Part. That could change later on, but right now, Till Death will be the one I give the vote
and that will be there. And then we have Top Billing next. Now we get into the hard part. Actually, we don't. There's only one choice. Okay. So to go on our top 10 list for Tales from the Podcast with Neal joining us from top 10, we'll start at number 10, Cutting Cards. Then we go 9, Top Billing. 8, Till Death Do We Part. 7 is What's Cooking. 6 is Lower Birth. 5 is Dig That Cat. 4 is Fitting Punishment. 3 is The Man Who Was Death. 2 is House of Horror. And number 1 is Television Terror. And honestly, I'm okay with that list. I think it's a pretty solid fucking list.
Yeah.
So, maybe we'll go ahead and put that out there as well. But it's a fun list. I will say, to continue on with some Tales from the Crypt, as I mentioned before, we have some Tales from the Crypt cards here.
You do.
From 1993.
Yes. And
I do want to say to Trekpedia, What's Cooking is the one with Christopher Reeve. It's definitely worth checking out. I know you've seen it, but to anyone out there who hasn't seen it, I recommend it.
Right.
It's a fun episode. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, just before anybody says anything, I do have multiple unopened packs left. I do have the entire set behind me in a binder, all in order, with even unopened wrappers and a wrapped one in it as well.
I have the comic covers. I kind of set them out and separated. And
well, I mean, if you just look at the back sides of it, it's basically the same thing. But let's go ahead and open up this pack and see what we get. Which, man, these do not open like modern day cards. You can tell they're 30-year-old. So let's see what we got here. We got, the Man of Your Screams. It's just funny because Television Terror, number 1, right there.
Nice.
I feel like we should have had a drum roll sound effect.
I feel like, I mean, that would have been perfect. Planting Ahead for the Future. Get the Crypt Keeper there. With the episode Split Personality. Another good one. Here we go with Bartender, Give Me Another Shot. And this is, we got the episode, The New Arrival. TV or not TV, which is what, four-sided triangle. So I mean that's not a bad one either, which I believe is the episode that Trickopedia was talking about with the scarecrow and the. But here's a fun one. There is nothing written on this one. And this is just the cliches from the Crypt Keeper, which are just some of his sayings, which include the morgue, the merrier. I never met a maniac I didn't like. No guts, no gory. He's as stubborn as a ghoul. It's as much fun as a frontal lobotomy. He's as happy as a maggot in flesh. He couldn't hit the site of a mausoleum. He's a real working stiff. A vulture in the hand is worth two in the bush. Q so raw, so raw. And this is a behind the scenes one right here, which is pretty cool. They did this.
Oh, yeah.
And this right here is the special effects genius who's responsible for the creation of the animatronic Crypt Keeper is Kevin Yeager. However, this is not the first creepy character that Yeager brought to life. You've likely been scared silly by another Yeager-inspired monster in Nightmare on Elm Street. In addition to directing each of the opening and closing scenes of Tales, Kevin directed a very bizarre episode strung along which featured murder, revenge, and a scary puppet. Sound familiar? We got this one right here. I'm having a wonderful slime, which is also from Four-Sided Triangle. And here we go. One of the comic book covers.
I have all those. Yeah, I love
Very
them.
nice.
Those were so sick.
Yes, this is Jack the Ripper, which would have been Tales from the Crypt, February of 1953. Which, cool thing about these ones is it does give a lot of really cool little facts about the actual episode, not the episodes, but the actual comic books.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Very nice.
so there you go. Everyone got a chance to see those and check that out a little bit. And what I will be doing now is for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For the next 8 orders of Tales of Shock and Terror, you will also be getting a collectible Tales from the Crypt card inside of the packaging as well. So if you order a comic book or more than one, you'll get one per comic book sent your way on top of that. So
very nice. Very
yeah,
nice.
I figured it'd be a fun thing to do. It's better than sending them like a lottery ticket from my state.
Oh, those cards are they were cool little cards, man.
Yeah.
When they came out.
Oh yeah,
when you were reading off the little quips that the Crypt Keeper has, it reminded me of something from that first episode, The Man Who Was Deaf. And my wife caught it, and I had to rewind the episode. But he said, boys and girls. They had not yet gone with any of the puns where he would say like boils and ghouls. And it was really kind of weird to hear that because I'm like, I'm not used to that.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean,
first episode, they weren't quite sure. They're just getting a feel for everything. Like I said, there was a lower energy to the Crypt Keeper. It wasn't the quite higher register of John Cassier's voice yet, but you could see the evolution.
Right.
But I was like, oh,
he didn't have a lot. Like from talking to him, he didn't actually have a lot that he was able to do with that original puppet because it wasn't able to move as much. So you get a mix of the character not being fully developed as well as him not being able to do much more at that point in time.
Yeah, it's very much comes off as a pilot, but you can see what they wanted to do and how it evolved to what it became, what we know now. And I'm not knocking it in any way because you can see that the animatronic didn't quite work. You can see where the mouth just kind of was barely able to move and stuff.
Right.
And you can see the evolution, but it was just so weird to hear him say, okay, boys and girls. I'm like,
yeah, it was a lot different.
Yeah.
Now,
it was kind of startling. I was like, huh, that's weird.
For those, though, who do want to go back and watch some Tales from the Crypt episodes, I will strongly suggest my good buddy John Acevedo. He runs the CryptTube Incorporated channel. He has actually went through and done 4K renderings of every single episode, and they're available to watch for free on YouTube. Yeah, he did it. And I will say, of all the people out there who's done them, there is not a better copy out there. So if you are going to check him out, John's a really close friend. I mean, good guy.
Awesome.
I strongly suggest people checking out his page. And
That's
also talking about
I watched them.
They're good copies. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I created a whole playlist.
Putting the whole things there. Yeah,
there's a whole playlist I have saved that is from episode 1 of season 1 all the way through the end. So when I want to do it, I can just start from 1 and just go through it.
He killed it. I do want to mention too, because this was something that came out this year. Spirit Halloween, you can go suck a big fucking dick. You're a piece of shit company, and I hate you. For you to sit there and put out a brand new Crypt Keeper animatronic, use the likeness from the HBO series, which is fine, but then get it voiced by somebody other than John Kassir, you're a piece of shit company, and I don't think I'll ever buy another thing from you.
Who did this?
Spirit Halloween.
Really? I didn't know about this.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty douchebaggish.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty shitty.
Yeah. I will bring up the actual animatronic.
It's like if you couldn't get Kassir to do the voice right away, if he was like, hey, I've got a lot going on, I can't really do it, you put that on hold until he's available.
Yeah.
You don't just push it out with
it's got to come down to
else.
money. It's got to come down to money like everything else. Probably.
I'm sorry, but John doesn't. He does not charge that much.
No, I mean not on his end, but like, you know, Spirit of Halloween's like a corporate. I'm sure it's a corporate franchise or a corp. You know, so like,
yeah,
you know, that goes.
If they don't want to spend that kind of money, they're like, well, we can get somebody off of Fiverr who does an impression of the Crypt Keeper.
Right, exactly.
And that's basically what they did. And
which is so disrespectful, you know, on every level. It's just, you know, terrible.
It really is. And I mean, it's like I said, it is through Spirit Halloween. They are the ones that are selling it. It is a 5.5 foot Crypt Keeper animatronic, and it does speak. It does, it does quite a bit. I was actually super excited until then, but for them to not go and not have John Kassir do the voice, I lost a lot of respect for them.
That Spirit Halloween, the store.
Yes.
That did that?
Yes, and you are right, which was actually done by the same producers. And there was also, what was the other one they did? Two-Fisted Tales, which a lot of the episodes were actually double filmed for both series. So like Yellow was one of them, for instance, that was technically part of that spinoff. And both spinoffs end up not doing very well. And, you know, those episodes ended up getting repurposed back into Tales from the Crypt. But anyways, man, I mean, I love talking about Tales from the Crypt.
Well, I mean, can I suggest something before we go? Go out.
Yeah.
Each of us give our 2 must-sees for the viewers to recommend must-sees overall.
Must-sees.
If you're gonna if somebody's gonna go after watching this and look up the Tales from the Crypt episodes, what 2 would you recommend them viewing?
All right. Do you want to start off and we'll keep the same pattern going? Or would you like somebody else to?
You know what? I didn't think of it. I thought of the idea, but the actual episodes, I really have 3, probably now down to 3, to be honest with you.
That's fine. And just so everyone knows, this right here is the YouTube channel for CryptTube Incorporated.
Highly recommend you go there and check it out. Support his work because he put in a lot of effort.
I'll send it to you privately on Facebook.
I mean, if I'm going to go with 3, Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, I think everybody should see. Till Death Do We Part, and probably House of Horror. But also Television Terror too. It's hard to narrow it down, man.
Right. No, I get it. I guess I'll go next. If I'm gonna recommend some, I'm gonna stick off of the list for episodes that I think people need to check out. Just so, like these right here would be my episodes that I think would get people interested and want to watch more. From season 1, I'm gonna say Only Sin Deep. It's not too scary. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those that's just I feel like you could just watch it over and over and over again. Another one, My Brother's Keeper, Siamese Twins. I mean, it's fun one. We get Timothy Stack in that episode, who I think is just a fantastic actor, and you get to see him doing a whole different kind of role there. And for something a little bit more on the easy side of watching, I'm gonna say The Reluctant Vampire. We get Michael Berryman playing Van Helsing, and I think that is just one of the coolest fucking things you'll ever get. Not to mention you get Malcolm McDowell in this episode too, and George Wendt, who, I mean, who doesn't like to see him? I mean, I think Paul Gleason's in it too, isn't he? Yeah, Paul Gleason's in it too. So, I mean, fucking great cast. It's a fun episode. It's not too scary. I mean, it's something you can sit down and even watch those ones all with your kids and your family and have a good semi-horror family night. What about you, Jeff?
I'm gonna echo Neal and say Dig That Cat is one for sure. Just because it's got that surreal, like I said, waking nightmare kind of just what the hell's going on kind of feel. Plus the narrative of Joe Pantoliano starting out in the coffin, and then you're working through everything, and you at the same time come to the realization as him. It's just like, oh, that ending is so good. And it's not really scary, but it's really twisted.
Yep.
It's really twisted.
It's a real EC comic type of story.
And I think the other one, as far as my experience with like going through some of those episodes with JB before we started doing just the movie stuff and finishing out the run of the Tales from the Crypt episodes, and having seen a few of those comics doing the comparison, the other one, I'm going to say the very first episode, The Man Who Was Death. It's such an EC thing where it starts out one way and then it comes back around. He's this karmic retribution, this morality tale of like, well, you can't just go do what you want because you feel it's right, because there's still laws in place. It's just another one. I think the performance of Sadler is great, and it's not super scary, but it's twisted and dark enough of a story that I think horror fans will appreciate it. And I know it's the first episode, which is a jumping off point for a lot of people when this started, but I think it's also a good jumping off point for people who maybe don't know what they're getting into, and it kind of gives you an idea of what some of these episodes are, and then you can move on from there. And you don't necessarily have to go through all the seasons in order. You can kind of pick and choose and jump around till you see them all. Right. But I think that is those are two that I would recommend people check out.
You can always stop at the end of season 6.
No one's going to force you to watch season 7.
No. And talking about Only Sin Deep, I also go ahead and throw out there that Leah Thompson did just post on Twitter, so I am following her. Like I said, I do get alerts for Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
Is that following or is it stalking?
Still crushing to this day. Still crushing hard till this day. Just
yeah. Howard the Duck, man, I tell you.
I don't
weird
even,
sick
to be honest
pedophile
with
wasn't in it. But
it's like I don't even really like. don't like that movie that much. I know it's a
No, I love her in it though.
but yeah, I mean, absolutely, of course. But yeah, no, totally sex. I mean, just
Yes, it was
big time.
this
But
is-
you know, yeah, no. When I met, I was shaking when I was just like a little boy when I met her. She's just still stunning looking.
oh, yeah.
It's just amazing. She's still just so beautiful.
Oh,
But then she's a great actress too. I mean, she's just she was so good in that episode. Just you know.
I mean, I can't think of too many things that she's done where she just wasn't just amazing in it.
Yeah.
You know, there's something else about that episode too that I always forget about, and I trying to think of his name because I had a whole name for the guy too. Let me see if I can find him. Ah, here we go. Smokey Campbell. He is in that episode, and he was going to be on an episode until I didn't notice a message from him, and I called him the dollar store Eddie Murphy. Because that's what he did. It's like he fucking went in for his inner Eddie Murphy for that episode, and it was just really weird. But oh yeah.
Oh
I
man. Oh man.
Yeah, but no, great episode. Great. I mean, Leah Thompson, damn. We should probably do a whole nother podcast just on Leah Thompson.
The Leah Thompson cast.
I'm in on it. We'll only review things that she's done.
Well, I can talk for days on the Back to the Future trilogy because that was the trilogy I saw the most growing up.
Well, let's also not forget that she was in Jaws 3D.
I think she probably wants to forget that she was in Jaws 3D. As is Dennis Quaid.
Casual Sex that bombed at the box office, but it's a funny movie.
Oh God,
with, Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like,
I remember her from what was it? It was Red Dawn. I remember her in that too.
Yeah.
That was her first movie, I believe.
And she was
Red Dawn?
really good considering she was with these other actors who were pretty good.
Red Dawn was the year after Jaws 3D.
Oh, wow.
Mystery Disc Murder Anyone. She actually did a video game.
Well, All the Right Moves. Red Dawn was what, 82, and All the Right Moves was 83.
Red Dawn is 84.
Red Dawn was 84?
Yeah.
Okay, so then All the Right Moves came out before Red Dawn, actually.
Yeah.
So,
and Jaws 3D also came out in 83.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very busy year for her. I mean, she's still doing a lot of stuff too. I mean, it's fucking hands off to her.
You know what I
just she had that television show too.
Caroline in the City, which don't ask me how I know that show. I never watched it, but
the Spencer Sisters. She has 2023. She's put out 10 episodes of that. I mean, she's
and I just never thought about this until right now. She was in Jaws 3D, and then in Back to the Future 2, we have that sequence with Marty and the 3D shark. I'm like, so there's a callback essentially to a 3D Jaws film in that. I'm like, okay, I just now put it together, and I feel like I'm really fucking stupid for putting that together. But
right,
Jaws 19, yeah.
And let's also not forget her role in one of the greatest movies of all time in 1993, alongside one of the greatest actors, Jim Varney, with her role in the Beverly Hillbillies movie.
Was she?
Yeah,
she was. How did I forget she was in that?
That's a good one. And that was one of those movies you watch it and you can really see the acting chops of Jim Varney back then, especially considering everyone basically just, his Vern and then fucking Ernest. That's all. But I mean,
yeah,
the guy was a fucking great actor. He really was.
He's really good. And I'd say the actor Diedrich Bader, who played Jethro, is actually really good. Who a lot of people might remember from the Drew Carey Show. He was Oswald.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. There's something I remembered him from. God damn, what was it? He was Office Space.
Mm-hmm.
Was he in
Office Space?
Yes.
Wow.
And actually, if anyone is a Batman
Great
fan and
movie.
they like animated cartoons, like I know Batman the Animated Series is high on everyone's list. Diedrich Bader voiced Batman for Batman the Brave and the Bold.
And the Harley Quinn series.
And I didn't know that. But Batman the Brave and the Bold is really, really good.
Yeah.
I
I
recommend
grew up on the
Batman
Brave
fans
and
check
Bold.
it out. Oh, it's so good. That portrayal of Aquaman is the best Aquaman. I don't care. You can tell me it's Jason Momoa. You can tell me it's the Super Friends. No, it's the Brave and the Bold Aquaman for me that is the best.
They're just coming out with a new Aquaman. They had the trailer when I went to see Thanksgiving for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw
I
the
didn't mind
trailer
the
for it
first
too.
one.
I saw my daughter to go see that new Trolls movie. God damn it, Trolls. And yes, he definitely was. Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you, Neal, for coming on. It's always a pleasure having you, especially
Great
a
episode.
fellow Tales fan, man.
Absolutely. We talk about it for hours, but yeah.
I love getting the education from two Tales fans, so I can learn more from you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched them in a while, but they started coming back to me when we were talking about them. It's like it was yesterday, but it's just
I
so
feel
much.
like I've spent the last 4 years watching one at least every week.
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch them quite a bit. But there's like 7 seasons, so there's so many episodes. You know what I mean?
You too,
Like,
man. There is a ton of episodes. I mean, and another thing I do want to throw out there for people, man, like even if you don't have the money for it, you can find it online. Look up some of the old EC comics. No, I'm just saying, like, look up the comic books. A lot of these things don't get the respect they deserve, and even with a lot of the episodes that we have sat there and went through, I would argue up and down that at least half of those, the comic book is better than what you're seeing on screen. And
the comic
very, very specifically, just on our top 10 list here, our number 2, House of Horror. I'm going to tell you right now that comic book is way scarier than the fucking actual thing. And it's crazy thing in this, considering, like, yes, they went from like what 1950 to 1955, technically, really probably 54 realistically. So the majority of these were probably written 51, 52. And I will tell you right now, man, if you have a good imagination, it's some of the scariest shit you'll read in a comic book. And it's fantastic. And there's many sites online where you can go and
you could get the
check
90
these books out free.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first
eBay.
off, some of those are going for a lot of money. So, like, I showed you one earlier that I have that's pretty.
I have a
good
bunch
one.
of. I never praised.
The reprint of that one is still going for like $500, and that's a reprint of it. Yeah, I don't know if you have that one.
I haven't looked into it. I mean, to be honest with you, but I do have quite a few of them. In mint condition.
The average price on the reprints is about $8 a piece right now. So, and then you got to also keep in mind shipping and handling and everything. So, and books.
I got no plans to sell.
I don't either, but I'm talking like the people who are out there trying to buy them. They did come out with a really cool coffee table book, though, which doesn't have all the comics in it, but it does have all the covers, which is still a pretty sick fucking book.
I have the Dark Horse, the hardcover ones.
Yes, I'm talking about the coffee table one, though. But yes, those ones have them all in them.
I'll never get rid of those. Those are fantastic.
I mean, those are. I mean, if you go to rebuy that, that's still $250, $300 for just a set, and you can't buy those as a full set, really. I mean, you can't. When you buy them, you're buying just the Tales from the Crypt.
I have the Bolt of Horror one and the Tales from the Crypt one that I got for really good prices.
Very cool.
All color and yeah, they did a good job with that. I'm not talking about like the actual box sets with remember the ones, I don't know if it was Dark Horse or not, but it's basically the 6 stories. It has the grave one on the cover, red. That's what you're. Yeah, so those are still worth. I had the Vault of Horror and the Tales.
Going just on Tricopedia's comment that the comics code killed the comic book of Tales from the Crypt. Yes and no. If you actually go through and look at that, it's a really fucked up story, and the reality of it is Marvel and DC really put EC Comics under. Marvel and DC Comics were in a very, very big slump when it came to comic book sales at that time. They were not making any money, and their only way to compete was to basically bring down their competitor. So, like, you know how sometimes at work you got those people that work really hard and that's how they sit there and get appreciated. Then you have that one cocksucker in the back who's always just telling on everybody, and he thinks Marvel and DC are basically those cocksuckers, and
Laser. That's what we call the ass glazer.
It's sad, but it's very true if you go back and look into it. And it's not all bad. Like, yes, Tales from the Crypt, the horror lines all went down, but it did help bring out Mad Comic, which turned into Mad Magazine, which was an original EC thing too. And I mean, because of the comic book, code, I mean, let's be honest, they weren't affecting magazines, so they went that route, and they were still very successful with that.
Went the satirical route, man.
Yeah. They had to pivot, but I think then creativity kind of flourished a little bit going that way.
Right.
We just kind of like, okay,
fucking amazing artwork anymore that we really loved.
Well, it was two companies going, well, fuck you for taking our people away, and then them going, well, fuck you, we'll just go another route and still get people what they want.
Right.
And subvert the code, which the code fucked over a lot of people in the end. I mean, that code was such bullshit.
Didn't know this, that I thought that was a separate entity. I didn't think that Marvel and DC affected horror comics because it was superhero.
Well, think about it. What is Morbius?
True. There are.
Well, no.
Yeah.
What is the full title? What is he?
I'm not a superhero.
Morbius, the living vampire.
He was a living vampire because it was against the comic code to be dead. So it did affect them in certain ways.
Okay.
But they banned specific words like haunt, fear, crypt, very specific in the title EC comic books. And a lot of that was under the pressure of like I said, the Senate with the comic book code trial, as well as Marvel and DC kind of pushing that. And and none of it, there might have been some issues with mothers being upset with some of the stuff, and it might have ended up still becoming a comic book code trial
for the time.
But I mean, to have Marvel and DC going against them as well did not help it.
Which is so funny because Marvel even had their own horror books. I don't know how early they were, but I know they had like Tomb of Dracula and stuff because Blade started out in the horror.
That was after.
It might have been after, but I mean, they could have just started it then and been like, okay, why don't we just compete instead of trying to bury?
Right. But I mean, I wanted to just, they had their own, like, Chamber of Chills and House of Secret. They had their own horror lines.
Yeah, but a lot of those things were not banned, though, very specifically. And, a lot of the things that they were doing were not, I guess for a lack of a better way of putting it, were not as boundary pushing.
They were tame compared to the fact that EC was pushing the envelope. They were willing to show a little more graphic content. Absolutely. They were willing to print those stories that maybe not everyone wanted to read, which goes to me, it's like, it's the same thing. We still have people like that now. And it's like, if you don't want your kids reading it, just don't get it for them.
Yeah, fuck your kids. Who cares? I mean, this stuff is. If you do want to know more about it, because I don't want to sit there and I'll tell you this much: the last time I did this, and I decided to do a whole episode just based on the comic book code trials. If you are a fan of that and this is something of interest to you, you can go on the podcast format, which you could find over at talesfromthepodcast.com, as well as the comic book and all other sorts of cool shit. there is like a 4-hour episode I did just on the comic book code trials and everything involved with it. And I mean, that was like a 5 weeks of research with 6 people all talking about every little aspect of that trial.
Yeah, I believe it.
I mean, we went very, very in depth with it, and yeah, I mean, we got problems.
Well, I mean, yeah, those Tales from the Crypt stories were really pushing the boundaries for the time period.
Right.
You know, some of the stories were pretty graphic and
Well,
pretty scary for
like
the
I
50s.
showed you, the one of the main things that really pushed it over the edge was the cover for Crime Suspense Stories, issues number 22, which was the decapitated head, which definitely helped push it over. And I also showed you EC Comics' instant rebuttal to it, where they put out in Panic, which was a blank cover.
Blank
So
cover.
there could be no controversy. So it was basically EC's big fuck you to them, which, you know, and if you are a really big fan of these things and you do get a chance to actually check out some of the originals, I'm not sure if they're in a lot of the reprints, but especially if you're looking at like the end of EC Comics, for like the Tales from the Crypt, the Haunt of Fear, and Vault of Horrors, where you're getting into like the original ones, you'll notice that there is a lot of anti-comic code trial ads inside of those issues where they were basically saying fuck you to them the entire time that was going on.
Yeah.
So I mean, they did not help their case by any means, but
No,
I
but
can't blame them either
it's
for
a
it.
whole anti-establishment kind of thing, and you kind of got to tip.
Right.
You got to kind of tip your hat to them for doing that,
Right.
because it was basically like, why are you trying to censor us when we have freedom of expression in this? Just tell people to do better at, if they don't want their kids to read it, just don't buy it for your kid.
Well, it's like Dee Snider of Twisted Sister fighting the CC, the Tipper Gore.
Basically.
Yeah.
Except that he was,
you know what I mean? Like
he was still a lot more
parental
successful
advisory,
though.
which made us buy the tape. Which made us buy the tape more. NWA. We wanted to buy it because it said, parents, advisory.
No,
that's all it did for me. Is anytime I saw parental advisory, I was like, "That's what I want.
I got to get that."
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't want no radio edited bullshit.
Ice-T fought them. Yeah, I mean, there was some big names that fought that Tipper Gore movement.
Right. I mean, it was very similar though. That's for sure. You're not wrong there.
Yeah.
But
and all that did for me, like I said, was just put a big label on it, like, this is what you want.
Right. Well, anyways, let's go ahead and get the fuck out of here for the night, guys. Neal, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and what you've been up to and what you got going on right now?
Well, you can check out the Top 10 Films website, which is Top 10 Films, the number 10.co.uk. There's always new material on there, top 10 film lists, articles of major iconic films like 30th anniversaries, and a lot of horrors on there. Just a really fun site for film fans. Which is really big for me is I'm going to be on the Church of Tarantino podcast, which is endorsed by Tarantino, which I was very surprised. I actually got invited to go on that. I'm going to be on season 3 as a guest, and we're going to be talking about the Tarantino verse, if I got that correct, which is basically the fake Fox products that Tarantino has in his films, like Red Apple and stuff like that, which I'm looking forward to. It's going to be exciting. So I don't know the full details, but I will be on there. But I'll give the dates and when it comes out, but I'll be on 2 of their shows. It's a fantastic podcast for Quentin Tarantino fans. Check it out. It's the Church of Tarantino. And they have had Tarantino on. They've had a bunch of people. Roger Avery's been on. A lot of people have been on it.
Nice.
So I'm excited about that. That's a big for me. And then just like my letterbox, you could check me out under my name. I don't do much with Twitter. I am on Instagram, but just guest hosting podcasts and writing on top 10 films, basically. But yeah, check out Top 10 Films. You don't have to subscribe. You just put your email address in, and you can check out their stuff. It's a really, really fun site.
Very, very
Around
cool.
2012. So.
And what about you, Jeff? What do you got going on this week? I know you're doing that shitty actor guy thing.
Oh, it's not a shitty actor guy thing. It is Nick Cage November over at the Skewered Universe podcast, which is the other podcast I do.
Wait, did you say Nick Cage?
Nick Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Huge fan of Nick Cage. I love Valley Girl. Valley Girl is one of my favorite movies of all time.
That's going to be one we get to, but we dedicate November to Nick Cage. It's Nick Cage November. So the Skewered Universe podcast, we review movies. You know, we break it down in 15-minute segments. We call them interstellar interstitials. We watch them, come back, give you our thoughts. My wife, Leanne, and I kind of give you real-time thoughts on it, break it down with little intermission segments. And we're getting ready to do another...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I should mention that in my Valley Girl group. I have a Facebook Valley Girl group. Probably bring a lot of listeners. If you're talking about Valley Girl.
That's probably going to be for next year, because right now I'm trying to get 2 more episodes in, because I had 4 episodes lined up. Personal things came up, you know, health-wise, wanted to get things straightened out. I'm fine, but you know, antibiotics help. Let's just put it that way. It's a minor thing, so kind of pushed the schedule off, but we got another movie. Hopefully 2 more episodes we're going to do for Nick Cage November. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Just search Skewered Universe. Same with social media. Except for X or Twitter, we're not over there. We failed a while ago from that one. And then you can also get all the links at skewerdhead.com. That's also for the blog. You can check out our Patreon, support us that way, and get all the social media links and listen to the show that way in the thing. Thanks, Trekopedia. Yeah, I've been feeling fine. It's just, you know, I won't go into the details, but let's just say if you have an issue, go to your doctor, get it taken care of. Don't do what I did. But yeah, Skewered Universe podcast. Check it out, support us, and it's a lot of fun.
And last but not least, always go over to talesfromthepodcast.com. You can check out Ron's stuff there. I mean, let's just be honest. Underneath Jeff, underneath me, underneath Ron, you have links to all of our stuff that we have going on at any point in time. There's links to the episodes right there, the YouTube channel, which you should be liking and subscribing to. And like I said earlier, to reiterate, if you're not, you can go fuck yourself. Also, we got a link there to our...
do it gently, light some candles.
But depends. You know. Maybe you're not into it being gentle. Maybe you want to roughly fuck yourself. But there's also a link to a really
some coarse sandpaper and...
I mean, I suggest using one of the 3M sanding sponges. You get more out of it and has an angle. But also remember, check out the Tales from the Podcast site there, and you can find the link to purchase your copy of Tales of Shock and Terror, issue number 1. I will say right now that there is not very many issues of this left, and once these are gone. Issue 2 is getting closer and closer every day to being finished. I will say it's been a very successful run, and out of the hundreds of copies of this book that are out, I have less than 50. And so if that is of interest, let me know.
I will say, as someone who purchased Volume 1, I highly recommend you get it.
Well, thank you.
And I will say, if you get that, you're going to be intrigued enough to want Volume 2. And
if you order fast enough, you get a free card.
I was just going to say, you're going to get a card in there if you order soon. If you're one of the lucky people that orders to go to these few remaining issues.
And if not, you'll get a business card at least.
Hey, it's got a QR code that you can scan.
Which takes you right to my
You know how the kids love them QR codes now.
And Uncle Ron's socks are for sale. If you go over to the Patreon, I might be adding Uncle Ron's crusty socks over there.
I didn't say it, Ron. Trekopedia brought it up this week. I did not say anything about your socks.
And just so you know, too, I guess to give another update, we're not fully there yet, guys, but the Patreon is going to be the first place for a little while where you will be able to get the Tales from the Podcast. It's a fucking video game, and I believe that is the actual title we were going with. And you get to play as me, Uncle Ron, and Jeff as we go through trying to stop something from happening, which will include us fighting people, including somebody I dislike, who we changed names, but to give everybody a little hint onto what's going on with this game, I believe I called him Dickless Cage.
You don't like,
Yeah.
you don't like Nick Cage? No.
You ever see Wicker Man? Fuck that dude, that piece of shit, for making that remake.
I mean, also you got to think he also had tax issues, so he was doing anything he could to get a paycheck
That's
to
fine.
pay that off.
That's fine.
Well, the
So
Nick
I
Cage,
don't
yeah,
hold it
that was
against
fine.
him for the Wicker Man remake. I hold it against everyone else.
It's a bad movie. I don't care.
Yeah, well, that movie, I never even would even think to watch it. The original is freaky, but even like that remake Bad Lieutenant he did was pretty bad. Wasn't that great? But you know,
Wicker Man, though, the original, the creepy, classic, great movie. His remake, though, makes me just want to bash his face in with a fucking bat.
You know what? He's an acquired taste. I mean, I've always been a fan. I like a lot of his movies, but he's not for everybody. He's just a quirky guy.
My favorite role with him was Face Off, and I just think John Travolta did a better job being Nicolas Cage than Nicolas Cage did being himself. So, well, he worked with.
But I got a question. Where can I purchase a Tales from the Podcast hat from you guys? And is it a bigger picture?
I'm not sure if I actually have a hat on there. Let me go ahead and actually take
because the one I bought, it's a little dinky square.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you buy bootleg Tales from the Podcast.
And I did, which I didn't fucking want it.
Hey, and that we don't fault you for that, but JB and I both went down a rabbit hole after that, and we're looking at. I found so much stuff.
I mean, it is funny though. I mean, it's hard not to laugh a little.
I have a buddy of mine who does artwork, and he's had his stuff taken. And for a while, my wife and I were like, if we saw it on Facebook where people were promoting it, and we'd see they'd even keep his little logo on there. It's like, come on, you didn't put that together. His logo is right there.
You know?
So I do have to go through, and I'm probably gonna have to make a new shop. But for the time being, there is some Tales from the Podcast stuff. Just because I haven't done any updated logo stuff with anything yet. But if you go to talesfromthepodcast.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a Teespring store there, which does have some of the Tales from the Podcast older stuff there. Some things, like I said, do need to be removed. But there is also some really cool Tales of Shock and Terror gear that is only available on there, which is only going to be available on there for the time being. You know, like I know I tried to log into it probably like a month ago and I forgot the passwords, and I can't shut it down to make a new one or edit it. So it's like, motherfucker, I guess I'm just going to have this there, and then I'll have to make a new one. But you know, so a lot of the official stuff though you can find over there at the Tales from the Podcast website, and I'll have to look into some hats though, that's for sure. I mean,
yeah, with like the bigger logo, because it's a cool logo, you know,
right?
Comic book cover logo, but just this any
yeah, I'll definitely figure something out for that though. But anyways, I want to thank everyone for watching, being part of this. And remember, check out what everyone has going on. Follow Neal. Check out everything he has going on with Top 10. Guy puts out some fun lists. He's a cool guy. And I mean, he's a Tales from the Crypt fan. So,
been since 89.
I mean, I've been since probably about 93. But, I mean, I was about 5.
Older, yeah. I remember when the show first aired.
Right? That's all I could do.
Oh, yeah, no, guys, check out the episodes. It's a fantastic horror, I guess, anthology series.
Well, when did you say you were doing that?
What's that?
weren't you also doing like the you were doing a motherfucker an appearance?
Well, I'll be on the Tarantino podcast.
Right. So you got that one going on.
That'll be in March.
Right.
March.
I don't know if you are actually. I'll have to send you an invite over, but at the Tales from the Podcast group on Facebook, so I can get you to post some of those links there as well.
I think I am, or I should be, or I will when we get off.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, and we'll get that going. And but I think that's all we got for tonight, guys. Is there any last things anybody wants to throw in? All right.
Check out Tales from the Crypt.
Yes, and remember
the show.
You can watch them on YouTube for free. Go to the Crypt Tube Incorporated channel, which I did post for everybody. I mean, check him out, like what he's doing. I'm going to tell you right now, you are not going to find a better version of any of those episodes out there. And just because Neal has not had a chance to go check those out, I am hoping in the next couple of days he will go check them out a little bit and at least give me his honest opinion, because I'm going to tell you right now, I think he's going to be pleasantly surprised.
I don't feel like pulling out my old DVDs and, so easy access on YouTube, watching the episodes for sure.
Especially if you have a higher end TV. I mean, I know for me personally, I mean, it looks fantastic on my fucking newer Samsung, and I'm happy with it. But anyways, check us out. Remember, talesfromthepodcast.com. Comic cards are available for the next few orders with the comic book, so please check that out. And with that being said, the crypt is closed.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening, kiddies. You're all a scream.